All right, guys, man. This is 12:16 in the afternoon where I live in Trinidad and Tobago. I hope you guys are having a great day. I want to share with you some stuff. First thing I'm going to talk about, of course, is the Batman logo. Then I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Krypton in terms of the DCEU and in terms of the Matrix. So we'll look at that in a couple minutes. But of course, you can always leave your comments in the chat section. I know there's some of you come through, watch my videos, and it's really awesome. If you want to join me in this hangout, what you got to do is say, man, I want to join you in this hangout. This is always a spontaneous stream, but I'm trying to keep them regular so you guys know at some point in the day you will see a stream like this. Psalms 118. I'm going to read from verse 24. It says, "This is the day which the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it." A lot of times people refer to this is the day as a specific day of the week. Some people say it's Sunday morning. Some people say it's Saturday morning or Saturdays. I don't believe that. I believe that every day is the day that the Lord has made, and I rejoice and be glad in it. In fact, there's a certain place in the scripture which says today. And God is the God of the now, not the God of any specific day. You know, people talk about the Lord's Day and they think it's some specific day. I don't believe that. I believe it is every day is given by the Lord, and therefore every day is the Lord's day. If you ask me, I want none of the days to be my day. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, it says, "This is the day which the Lord has made," but it's in the context of something. All right. And if you go ahead and read the whole entire passage, it's in the context of Jesus's death and his sacrifice for us. Anyway, it's interesting that the Lord here that they're talking about is Jesus. But let me just go on a little bit. "We will rejoice and be glad in it." Of course, be glad because this is the day of your liberty. "Save now, I beseech thee, O Lord. O Lord, I beseech thee, send now prosperity." He's talking now about God saving the oppressed and the poor and the weak, bringing true justice, prosperity. Interesting to use the word prosperity. "Blessed be he that comes in the name of the Lord." Now, this is written a number of places in scripture, but in this case, this means the person who is sending the gospel, the person who is preaching the good news. There's good news, you see, and this is what it says. We have, and he was talking about good news from the entire Psalms of 118, and there's a context to this. But anyway, God is the Lord. Sorry, "we have blessed you out of the house of the Lord," you know, out of the house of El, you know, the Jewish people that created Superman, Schuster, and the other guy. They were Jewish people. So the house of El. So we see the same kind of language here, the house of the Lord. God is the Lord. Now, who is this Lord? The Lord we're speaking about, David speaking about here is Jesus. So he says God is Jesus, which shows us light. He basically, Christ, through his death and resurrection, basically showed us who God really is. And that's the light. That's the enlightenment. What goodness really is, that it's self-sacrificing. And that's why I said, when you look at Infinity War and you look at what true love is, true love self-sacrifices so that others could live. It doesn't do the opposite and sacrifice others so that it can get something. Love don't work like that. It's selfless. And so when we look at, again, what true sacrifice is, you cannot say that Infinity War represented that, especially on Thanos' end of the spectrum. And then we go on, it says here, "God is the Lord which shows us light. Bind the sacrifice with cords." So now this light is being bound with cords. And it's interesting, when Jesus was crucified, he was bound onto the cross. But bind the sacrifice with cords. They're talking here about the Hebrew sacrifices that used to go on with the lambs and stuff like that. "Even unto the horns of the altar. You are my God." And the horns of the altar, by the way, are the edges of the altar where they would sacrifice the animal and the blood of the animal would come out of that. "You are my God, I will praise you." He's talking about Jesus, his descendant to come. "You are my God, I will exalt you. I will give thanks unto the Lord." Again, he's talking to Jesus, about Jesus here. It's a foreshadowing, it's a prophecy. "For he's good, for his mercy endures forever," because it's through the mercy of Jesus taking on the sacrifice for us, that we are here today. And that's why he says his mercy will endure forever for us, because that particular action of Jesus that he did will endure for all time and past time into eternity. Because once we exist and once we are eternal, we will be the testimony of his sacrifice for us. Again, the sacrifice here is not God sacrificing someone else, but actually himself coming down as a human and dying for us. That's the ultimate sacrifice. And that's what we're talking about. When we talk about sacrifice, sacrifice is always something you attach to, very close to you, that you give up. You know, when we talk about a fast is kind of like a sacrifice. It is where you have given up certain things for a greater good, and things that you are attached to. So that's where you sacrifice something, you know. And when you look at Thanos, he didn't sacrifice nothing, really. If you really think about it, he didn't sacrifice anything. He's still there. It's not something that he was you know, very strongly attached to. Yeah, you could argue he was strongly attached to Gamora, but at the end of it, because it was his vision for the future leadership. But at the end of the day, sacrifice involves something that will hurt you, that will damage you, that will impair you. Generally, it's something where you sacrifice something for someone else, not a thing, but someone else, you know, for the betterment of other people. So that's what it is. Anyway, let me just move into, so that's the scripture for today that sets the framework for what we're about to talk about. And yes, we're going to talk about sacrifice with the DCEU, with Krypton, and with Batman, and with a number of other things. But we're going to get into it right now. First of all, I need to change the way how this stuff looks. Let me just look on YouTube to see what's going on with you guys here. One person already liked this video. One person is watching this video. That is cool. You know, sometimes you only get 2, 3, 4 people watching, and then later on more people go and watch the video, and that's cool. I understand it's a spontaneous stream. I was supposed to do it since last night, and I just put it off until today. Okay, so let's look at some things I want to share with you guys. First of all, I said we're gonna look a little bit deeper into Batman's logo, and so let's get into it. So when you look here, this you already know that the Batman logo, generally it has a close resemblance to the original Golden Age logo. And let me just zoom in on these logos here of the different live action renditions of Batman in cinematic or in cinema, in film. So here at the top right, I know this could be sharper. Let's see if I can get it sharper here. It's supposed to be sharper. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, zoom out a little bit. There you go. All right, this is beautiful. This is wonderful. Okay, so there you go. So when you look at the original Golden Age Batman logo, which is this one right here, which this literally debuted in the first iteration of Batman in 1940. That's his own comic, not his debut, but in his own comic, Batman. Okay, and this is the original logo for Batman, and this thing ran for many years, from 1940 I think to 1978 I think. This logo in various variations of it was seen, and that would indicate that you're watching a Batman, whether it's in Detective Comics, whether it is what's that other comic, I forgot what the name of it is. It'll come to me. But in various iterations of comics, we've seen this logo. So this is the longest running Batman logo out there. And of course, the DCEU Batman logo, if you look at it, that Zack Snyder designed, you look at it, it really does resemble this logo quite a lot. All right. It's got the bat ears there. It's got the expanded wings, kind of like that. And then it's got the bat, you know, where the fingers of the bat end up, little fingers. And it has two, you know, the little tail of the bat right there. So it does resemble the Batman logo. But, however, let me just say there was another Batman movie that came out in 1966, Batman as well. It was called Batman, and that logo does resemble quite a lot the Batman logo as well. If you look at it, does have a very, very close resemblance in terms of form and shape to the Batman logo. So when I said in the last video, in my last stream, that the Batman logo that we see here, that Zack Snyder was the closest resemblance to this bat symbol, it's not exactly that. This 1966 Batman movie had this logo, and they played it a couple times in the movie as well. So, and this is really what, there was a television series, then they had the movie the same year, then they had more of the television series that ran, I think, from 1966 all the way up to 1970 something as well. Now, if you look at all the other Batman logos, however, they don't have a close resemblance to the Batman logo. And these are Batman logos from Batman movies. So Batman 1989, for instance, it does not resemble this. Neither does the Batman Returns 1992 logo. Neither does the Batman Forever logo, nor the Batman and Robin logo, nor the Batman Begins logo, nor the Dark Knight, nor the Dark Knight Rises logos. And so it says here, of all the live-action feature film logos of Batman, only 2 resemble the original Golden Age Batman logo of the first issue of Batman Comics. Batman 1966 and Zack Snyder's DCEU Batman seen in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice and Justice League. None of the other logos vaguely do, and that is true. That is very true, as you can see here. All right, you zoom out. So these 2 logos definitely do resemble this logo. And remember, these are the logos that defined Batman. If you saw this logo somewhere, you know that was the Batman logo. Now, Batman had a logo on his chest as well, and that was separate to the logo that we had on the comic books. All right, and that was a different kind of logo, right? Now, these logos generally were what Batman wore on his chest as well. All of these. Of course, this one was what Batman wore on his chest, but this one was not what Batman wore on his chest, nor this one. Okay, it was a separate logo for that. However, so what Zack Snyder did, and goes, I got a lot to say on that, but that's for another day and another time. But if you watch the bat signal that sends up into the sky, you would see that Zack's very consistent with this logo. This logo is in the sky. It's on Batman's chest. It's on his vehicles. You know, this logo was repeated, and it's just one logo. And that's not necessarily the case for all of Batman stuff. So that's another story for another day. All right. Now, going a little deeper into that, going a little deeper into what Zack Snyder actually did with the Batman logo. That's what we're going to delve into here. So while it is true that we had Batman 1966 having a logo very similar, quite similar to the logo of the original Batman comics. And if we can look at it right here. So here's the original Batman comic here, and this is the BVS Jail DCEU Batman logo, which does very much complement the shape of this logo. But we also have here Batman 1966 logo, which really almost identically fits into the logo of this here. There's some slight differences, modification of the ears and stuff. And again, we just repeat it just to show you a later episode of the Golden Age Batman with the shorter ears. And again, this one matches up pretty good as well. But this one, I mean, almost flush, right? Almost flush. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that even though it's, you know, the DCEU Batman symbol is not the closest representation of the original, longest running symbol for Batman in the comics, it is intentionally paying tribute to such as a non-contemporary. See, this Batman movie was actually a contemporary of the time when those Batman comics with this particular Batman symbol or logo was running. So this was actually a contemporary of the time. In fact, if you look at any of, as you saw in the previous videos, if you look at any of the other Batman movies, except for Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, the logos at the time that were featured for Batman in the comics, they were actually contemporaneous or contemporaries of those logos. So if you look at Batman 1989, it was contemporary to the logo that was seen in the 80s, all right, of Batman. Especially, I think it started, I think it first appeared in 1988, that logo. And then when you look at, say, for instance, Batman Returns, it is also contemporary with that same logo. And then you have the Batman Forever, which is contemporary with the logo that was in the comics at the time. You look at Batman and Robin, the Batman part of it was contemporary with the comics at the time, and so on and so on and so on. So you found that what was contemporary for the Batman comics, that logo was there, except for Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, which were not necessarily contemporary with the logos. They kind of set a trend. Now, the interesting thing about Zack Snyder is Zack Snyder intentionally pays tribute to the original Batman comic by putting a logo that looks and reminds us of the original Batman comic, and also at the same time reminds us of the Dark Knight Returns comic by Frank Miller. So he's able to knock out a number of different things at the same time, even though Frank Miller's logo for Batman was multiple. He had the circular logo with the symbol in it, and then he had this one with the fat logo. He had two logos. Now, what's interesting about that is that that particular logo, this particular logo here, the particular design of this logo, which is different to the Dark Knight Returns logo in various ways, this particular logo points us to something very interesting that I want to show you. So Zack Snyder's not just showing you this logo from an earlier period without a context. It resembles the Golden Age Batman logo and that the longest running logo for a reason. Zack Snyder's trying to bring the old into the new. When we first see Batman in BVS, he's a very brutal hero and he's killing some criminals. And guess what? The Golden Age Batman, the Batman with this logo here, that's what he used to do. He used to kill criminals. In fact, here he's punching a guy and the Robin's tackling from down below. That's a nasty way. He's very brutal. Okay. And he's smiling doing that too. And what's even more interesting about that Batman is when we see the earliest depictions of Batman. Batman is breaking people's necks. He's, he's throwing people in trash, kicking guys out of buildings, hanging them on planes. I mean, Batman is just, he's shooting people. And that's reminiscent of the BVS Batman, who's very brutal. He's killing some criminals. The difference is he's been doing crime fighting for a long time. When we go to Justice League, however, we realize that we're now entering the Silver Age Batman, where, they started putting rules in check, no guns, don't kill anybody. He's averse to killing people, even though he does kill people even. And so we see the Silver Age Batman, and we're progressing with Batman now from the Silver Age onwards. When we look at the outfits that Batman wears from BVS all the way into Justice League, we see a progression of Batman moving from the Golden Age into the more contemporaneous versions of Batman, the New 52 to the Rebirth Batman. So we go all the way through the Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age. We go through the pre-crisis, crisis, post-crisis Batman, and then we go into the New 52, and then we go into Rebirth Batman. And why that's so interesting is because when you look at this logo here, there's more to it than meets the eye. See, this logo looks like a combination of the Golden Age logo of Batman and the Rebirth version of Batman. Even if you look at the New 52, which is a little bit slightly different, reminds us of Nolan's influence on Batman, but Batman Begins Batman, you will see that this is actually a combination of the both of the most recent Batman logo. Look at the sharp edges, how it's kind of very sharp and kind of, has the same amount of prongs and everything going on here. But it's in the shape of the original Batman logo. See the beauty in there. So that I feel like Zack fused both. I think it was the New 52 he would draw from because Rebirth wasn't there yet. So I believe Zack fused the New 52 with the ancient to get this particular logo. And to me, that's very, very interesting. And so it shows the rebirth from the old to the new. And that's the difference. That's what sets Zack apart. Zack has a sense of history when he does things, so that he's using things that you've already seen before And, you know, that's just something that I think is very insightful. I already put this up as a meme. Yeah, I already put this up as a meme out there, but I wanted to just share this with you guys because, you know, I want to hear your thoughts on that as well, about what Zack Snyder has been doing. And I just find these things so refreshing to look at. Now, what does this have to do with the context of what I was just talking about in respect to sacrifice? I just read to you guys about sacrifice from scripture and how it is, it's sacrificial towards itself. There's a lot of loss and stuff. Well, if you look at it, Batman basically was reborn from between BVS after Superman had an impact on him to Justice League. And that rebirth Batman brought Bruce Wayne back into the game. And if you look at Bruce Wayne, and if you look at this, rebirth is a thing that's kind of cyclic, so that it can actually carry you back to the beginning, but with new insight. If you look at how Bruce behaved in the Silver Age, for instance, with Robin, he was a much more understanding guy. He had to lead people. He had to care for people. And that's what made Bruce less brutal and less wanting to use machineries and guns and stuff like that. When he began as the Batman in the beginning, he was not with Robin. Robin wasn't with him. And it's almost like he's taking on a Robin by taking on the Justice League. And now he has to work with people. And so Zack kind of brought in that Robin character in terms of the Flash. And you can feel that Bruce now has this obligation to the Flash. And he's a reborn, rebirthed Bruce, which, again, rebirth comics. And so you get that kind of difference in Batman. And so when you really look at this symbol here, it almost tells a whole anthology of Batman. And I find that just very intriguing in terms of comic book movies. So what's the sacrifice? Well, Batman now has to sacrifice himself to win over these people. Even Superman, he has to sacrifice. He's on the point of being killed by Superman. He's at the point of being destroyed by Aquaman. He's at the point of absorbing some trauma from Wonder Woman. You know, this guy, he took a couple blows well just to be able to be that fabric, that foundation for some other people, so that they would buy into the hope. When Superman comes back, he still has to take a beating from Superman before Superman can actually be won over and a member of the team. And now we get the birth of the Justice League, which I find very cool. So there's a lot of sacrifice on Batman's part, in my opinion. And that's what separates this symbol from this symbol. This symbol, it appeared to be authentic. It looked like the authentic draft. Batman dressed like the authentic Batman, but he behaved a bit not like the authentic Batman, and how the authentic Batman would behave. And while certain attributes of Batman, that Batman had, it felt more like a parody of Batman. A lot of comedy and light humor and funny stuff. Then it was, to me, the essence of Batman and his gravitas, which we had in Batman comics. And it was always an adventure, and it was always scary, and there were always risks, you know, to be taken. And then to me, the Adam West Batman series was more a parody, whereas Zack puts more gravitas into this Batman character, and you feel the Dark Knight, you feel the Batmanish Batman essence of him. Even in Justice League, you feel that. And I think that's awesome, if you ask me. So let's talk a little bit more now about Krypton. I want to talk about Krypton, but I want to talk about it in the context of the Matrix. I just watched the most recent episode of Krypton, which was episode number 9. It's awesome. It's really crazy. It's really leading to the final episode of the season, which will be episode number 10. Brainiac is now on Krypton. In Kandor, his presence is now in Kandor, and he's very interesting how he looks. He's all these tentacles. He's got a very tentacled being, and that's very interesting. And you know, when we were talking about, if you've ever watched The Making of Superman Lives, the little documentary that was done by John Schnapp, it's very interesting and exciting how Tim Burton was going to approach Brainiac. And it's very interesting that there's a lot of, you know, when you think of Brainiac, you think of a humanoid form, and Brainiac's not necessarily humanoid. He's more of this sort of tentacle kind of parasitic kind of being. And so it very much is like the Matrix, where, you know, as you can see here, Brainiac's tentacles, let me zoom in a little bit on this so you guys can see this here. Very nice there. Good, good, good. Zoom out a little bit more, a little bit more. All right, good. So if you look here, this is Krypton season 1 all the way down here, and this is the Matrix Revolutions. If you look here, this is Brainiac's tentacles you see all around here. It's like a tree, and these are all looking like roots kind of thing, and it's pinning down Segel to the ground. What's interesting about this is in the Matrix, I feel they borrowed inspiration from the Matrix for this, and even the CGI, how they operated. In the Matrix, you have the tentacles coming up Neo's legs, and these tentacles actually secured Neo in a particular position so that he could engage with Smith. He could be plugged into the Matrix. And here you can see the tentacles are holding Segel in place. He's trying to wrestle his way out of that. And similarly, they provide the support for Neo as tentacles holding him in place there. All right, and then Brainiac's tentacle looks very much, this tentacle that comes up here with the sharpened end, like the tentacle in the Matrix, where this tentacle forms a sharp plug to insert into the hole in the back of Neo's neck, so he can enter the Matrix face Smith. And here, Brainiac's tentacle forms a sharp end which pierces Segel's neck. I don't know if it kills him or whatever, but Segel, you know, jumps out of the dream. It's a nightmare he has, and he wakes up from the dream. Which leads us to another very interesting thing that is common to all of these DCU movies and even Krypton now, and that is nightmares. You know, they've always had dream sequences. I think it all started with the Matrix. I think the Matrix is the inspiration for all these dream sequences that we see. And just to give you a nice analogy and show you how these scenes are just kind of ripped from the Matrix here. If you look here, let me just zoom in a little bit more here. Blur it first. All right, there, nice cleanup. Now, one more time. There you go. If we look here at the opening scene, this is Neo here, and he's doing a search looking for Morpheus, and the computer screen is showing it's processing. So he's searching right there. And then you remember Bruce Wayne, he's trying to decrypt Lex Luthor's drive, and here the computer is busy working. And what is happening while the computer is busy working? Neo's sleeping, and so is Bruce Wayne, right? They were both sleeping. This is why Bruce Wayne had those nightmares. And they had the nightmares, and they woke up from them. And then on waking up, Neo, well, in this case, Morpheus woke up Neo through the computer. And Neo wakes to find his processing is done. He does not know he's found Morpheus at the time, but he's found Morpheus. And Bruce Wayne, he awakes to find that the processing is also done. And this time, he's got cracked Lex Luthor's drive. When he looks into Lex Luthor's drive, he finds out what he was looking for, which is a ship that had the kryptonite on it. He was trying to figure out what this name had to do with anything, and he found out what the name was, and he found out his answer. So these are just parallels between the DCEU and the Matrix, and that's not all. The Matrix actually inspired not just the DCEU, but it also inspired, of course, we see Krypton, where, again, nightmare sequences. You see Neo wake up from a nightmare. This is where the Smith and they were interrogating him. And in this case, you have Segel waking up from the nightmare of Brainiac slamming that sharp object thing into the back of his neck, telling him he cannot avoid Brainiac coming to Kandor and taking it. And then here Bruce Wayne wakes up from his nightmare where the Man-Bat bites into his arm. So it's kind of very, not arm, sorry, his neck as well. So it's a lot of neck stuff going on. And it's just very interesting to me, the parallels between the Matrix. So you look at the Matrix really is the inspiration for a lot of things happening in these different live action depictions of these superhero movies. And of course, the Matrix itself was a superhero movie, so it kind of makes sense. And it was even based off of Superman somewhat. So Savior, Messiah, you know, so it makes sense that we see these things. And I wanted to just point that out to you guys. But again, sacrifice, that's what we're talking about here. And I wanted to just point that out to you guys. And if you guys have anything to say in the chat section, feel free to say whatever you have to say in the chat section. Dave Ethan, I truly believe that Snyder is a genius when it comes to comic book movies. It's really sad that people are now having trouble seeing that. I stand with Zack Snyder. Yes, and we should get the Snyder cut as well. I'm gonna put a hashtag release the Snyder cut. Okay, we need to get that Snyder cut, man. You know, but yes, I wanted to point that out to you guys on here that all of these movies, Krypton, what's going on here? Hang on a second. Yeah, Krypton and all these other movies, they patent themselves first and foremost after after The Matrix. The Wachowski brothers had a lot to do with how the DCEU is today, and that's what Zack Snyder has been using off of the Wachowski brothers and also off of Tim Burton. Tim Burton has had a big influence on him. The Wachowski brothers, Krypton obviously is borrowing from the Wachowski brothers also, and from the Wachowski sisters now, I forgot, and also from Tim Burton. All right. So I wanted to point out those different things because I think that, you know, a lot of people do not appreciate some of the ideologies of Tim Burton, for instance, with Superman Lives. It was what Zach carried on. He was able to carry it to completion. He was the director, could do the job. When you look at the Wachowski brothers and their approach to The Matrix, which is a comic book, kind of manga, kind of sci-fi conceptualized comic book movie, again, really cool. The Wachowski brothers loved comic book stuff, so their depictions of scenes was shot for shot identical to what they wanted. And same thing with Zack Snyder; he's very precise in his shot for shot scenes, what he wants visually. And Patty Jenkins just followed his storyboard to a T in that side. You know, Wonder Woman came out great. When you look at and these are really great visual directors, they say. But I think it's just much more than that. But my point is that when you look at the quality of movies that you see today, the quality has kind of dropped cinematographically. Oh my God, I couldn't say it. Cinematographically. I can't even say it properly. But that's all right, because at the end of the day, it's really about the content in your movie. And I always like conceptual films. I always like sci-fi for that. Something to challenge you, challenge the boundaries of what you're seeing. And you know, a lot of people praising Zack Snyder, but not understanding that the foundation was laid by guys before Zack Snyder. That Warner Bros. Had stuff like, you know, Superman Lives. Their ideas and concepts inside of Superman Lives, which Zack Snyder's actually used. That you know, Tim Burton's work was quite a lot. And then again, there are some special effects and stuff that they built off of what The Matrix has done. So a lot of people don't understand that. I see that a lot of people still misunderstand the Matrix trilogy quite a lot. They still misunderstand it quite a lot. And it's nice to break down some of it. I was just you know, looking at some discussions on the Matrix, how people just don't understand the Matrix. And a lot of people, again, these are philosophical, conceptual movies, which really go very deep into things, you know, into philosophies, into Greek philosophy, into all these other different philosophies, you know, worldwide philosophies, pulling from different parts of the world, different religions and stuff. So I don't expect people to actually get everything that the Matrix was saying, how it makes sense, because again, it's like to me, it's like an indie film that was allowed to have a big budget. You know, I hear people throw around, you know, the MCU. We were the first people to say that Zack Snyder brought an indie film to the screen in Batman v Superman. Then I heard people echoing how Civil War was this little indie flick, and I was like, that's not an indie flick. You stupid. That's a blockbuster. That's typical Hollywood. You know, nothing to make you think. Indie films, to me, because they're not controlled by major studios and stuff. You know, Zack Snyder stuff has been tampered a bit by a studio. You know, Justice League is a perfect example. We've learned now that Zack didn't get to really do what he wanted to do with Justice League. And just like how David Ayer didn't get to really do what he wanted to do with Suicide Squad. And that's a sad thing. BVS, again, was chopped up by the studio. The studio demanded that Zack chop up BVS to get a shorter runtime. And you just don't do that with certain directors. And no matter how they say, oh, the director might say, oh, yeah, you know, I want it actually shorter too. No, you let the director do what he wants to do. And these guys are indie filmmakers, and they really have some points and ideas that come out that are really important. And usually, man, I didn't go out today. Okay, fine, whatever. It is what it is. Usually, what happens is that it hurts because they're indie filmmakers. They're not trying to make blockbuster movies per se. They're trying to give you something that when you see it, it's worth your while to have watched it, because something comes to you, values and attributes to you that they really strongly believe in, that allows you to be, hopefully get better equipment and tools to carry on life. Movies are supposed to mean something. Movies are supposed to mean something, and that's what we're not getting these days. We're not getting that. And there are a lot of people who watch my videos and they watch the content of it and they realize, oh man, this is good content. But what they really want to do is not give me credit for anything, or they don't want really to praise the movies. They will try now to go sit down and try and work out something to say, you know, how bad this is. And then they want to steal the idea and then go and try and make sure that whoever they support would make a movie on that level. And the problem with that is when you try to steal something from some other person that is very creative, that means you have no creative ideas of your own. And the second thing is, it shows that you can't even put up something quality, because it takes a certain vision to do that. So you're going to slap together some kind of thing. That's why I said the Infinity War, as much as people trying to praise this movie, I know it's a bunch of crap, because I know it's slapshod, it's slutty, it's very shoddily put together. And it has nothing in it. Empty entertainment. Unlike BVS, which had a lot of substance to it, you know, Infinity War has nothing in it. Nothing. You get nothing out of it. You know, in fact, it sometimes gives you the wrong ethical and moral things, because what they're using is pathos. They're trying to get people to harmonize with a certain emotion. They're leading you on to certain emotions, and they're not even doing that well. And they use jokes to cover it up so that they can say, okay, if you're laughing, you know, you get stress relief and whatever, and that's going to help the movie. You know, that's how you enjoy the movie, because you're laughing through it. And that's what they're using. That's the gimmick they're using. That's why I don't laugh through none of their movies. In fact, I was shaking my head and I was just like, Jesus Christ, man, when is this movie going to end? You know, because to me, Infinity War is a bunch of crap. I mean, it's crap they gave you. And all the people who saying it was good and enjoyable, come on, man, be real. What do I have to discuss? Nothing. I only had 2 points to discuss, which was Thanos saying he loved Gamora, and we all know he didn't. And then the second one being, and these are plot holes. And the second one being that what people call sacrifice in this film, what was allegedly sacrifice in this film, and people trying to harmonize with Thanos' idea of sacrifice, it ain't sacrifice at all. It's genocide. All right. It's and his argument that the universe for the universe to go on, and at least civilizations and worlds to go on, this needs to be done, which is not, that's not the case. It's not the case at all. That's artificially done. And once you artificially affecting something, something else is going to be affected. We all know this from your artificial affecting of the weather, the climate, etc. Besides that, overpopulation is not the concern that we have. Humanity's major concern is that we would destroy ourselves through either pollution or through war. Those are our major concerns, pollution and war, because humanity has a nature of always wanting to dominate and conquer. And we have weapons now that can annihilate everything. So there's never been a problem about overpopulation. Nobody's ever, I don't have a problem with overpopulation, because I know it'll never happen. I know nature will never allow that to happen. The problems I see are climate control and somebody going and using a nuke or chemical warfare or something and blowing up everybody. I could see that happening easily. And those are the major concerns. It's the human nature part. It's the population control. It's that don't mean nothing. So again, the whole premise of the movie to me is stupid. And they're trying to take something that's whimsical from the comics, where Thanos, he snapped his fingers, half the population of the universe went away because he was trying to please death. That was it. And he had the power to do it. That was the whole reason. And the Russo brothers try to make it a bigger reason than that. I listened to all the conversations. They're talking about what would happen to the Avengers. Do you think it's the Soul Stone or the Infinity? All these fickle, small, nothing translating to us and our lives. if you listen to the discussion, it's always about people and about things. And usually small-minded people talk about people and things. They do not talk about concepts and ideas. Nobody's talking about concepts and ideas for this movie. They're just talking about people and things. And to me, that's just stupid. And I'm not into that. You know, when we talk about Superman, or we talk about Man of Steel, or we talk about Black Panther, you know, we're talking about ideas and concepts. I'm not interested in all of these other shallow things and contemporary issues that would pertain to us, and how the movies, these opinionated movies especially, give a solution to these things. As I said before, true sacrifice, as is shown here, and David sees it in prophecy. He sees the Lord saving people, and that's why he says the Lord is merciful. That's why he says, you know, he says, I beseech you now, send prosperity. And he talks about what is the Lord's doing is marvelous in our eyes, because it's directly affecting us as a sacrifice by the Lord himself, so that we could live, we could prosper. You see, if you look at Superman, when he sacrificed his life for the world, that was meaningful, because the whole controversy throughout the movie was, is Superman for us or not? He needs to be regulated or not? He's an enemy or not? Because he's an alien. And we learned this alien lays down his life for everybody. Everybody got to shut up now, because we ain't got no more Superman. Right? And that's the beauty of BVS. It's Batman v Superman. Batman's this dude that represents the people who say this guy is bad. He wins those guys over. The guy realizes he's a good guy. He was being manipulated by another guy who had an issue with this guy having powers and using them to do good. See? So when Superman dies, yeah, it's a bummer for some people. And they say, well, it's a terrible movie because Superman died. They killed him off too early. You know, they were bummed out that Superman died. But if there really was, again, all you got to do is sit down and reflect. A lot of people don't reflect. They react. And Zack Snyder will allow you to choose. But a lot of people choose based on emotion. They don't choose based on intellect, cognition, and direct their emotion, inform their emotion of what to do next. People feel you need to feel your way through life. You don't feel your way through life, otherwise you wouldn't make no plans. If you just did everything that you felt you needed to do, guess what? You do nothing. So you have a brain, and the brain involves cognition. So you have to inform your brain of what you want to feel. Right? I know everything, feelings come because of thoughts. Thoughts dictate feelings. If you feel pain, how you decide to react to that pain is based on up here, what you think. And a lot of us, we do not have any discipline, and we do not allow our minds to be under the control of good things. Because you hear so much negativity in the news and stuff. And what people are doing is they're trying to get a form of escapism by laughing away. They think they're taking away stress by laughing at everything. And that almost works, except there's a madness to that. If you do not address the issues at hand, you're just like Nero. You're just fiddling away while Rome burns. You're just fiddling away while Rome burns. You have to address the issues at hand. It's good to laugh at yourself sometimes, but not all the time. And that is where these, and I'm telling you, man, the Infinity War is destroying the comic book universe. It's destroying comic book movies. This thing is a fatal blow to comic book movies. This is not a blessing. This is a curse. Because all people will be going for in this time where they should be sober is they're going to go for more laughs. They go to the cinema to laugh as hard as they can. Yeah? You guys forgot about the Joker when he gave people laughing gas and they laughed to their death. Stop being an idiot and don't be controlled by a joker. But that's what's invading. That's what's invading the cinema. Jokers. They're taking comic book characters and making them into comedians. And you guys just idly watch that by while everything gets destroyed? Yes, there's a place for comedy. But there's a place and a time for that. And when you start taking characters like Thor, like Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and everything, every 2 lines is a punchline, that's a problem. It's a serious problem. And we're having a serious problem, not only in terms of jokes and what things are not funny you're making, you're desecrating, but now we have a problem with morality and ethics. After a very moral and ethical film like Black Panther, we see it seems to be consistent with Marvel directors, particularly. Joss Whedon came and he did a very moral thing, I feel, to Wonder Woman in Justice League. And then we see the immorality run rampant in Infinity War. The thing is it's a stain on cinema. That's why I cognitively do not enjoy that film at all. There's the Guardians of the Galaxy. They have their place in their irreverence to how they deal with things. That's one thing. But when you take the principal characters like Thor and all those other characters, and you have them equally as irreverent, you have a problem. You have a problem on your hands. You're taking characters now and you're sacrificing them. Genocide. You're killing off the characters for jokes. And that, my friends, is a no-no. Treat the characters with respect. And they're not treating Thor with respect. He's probably the one they drag into the mud the worst. They're not treating Doctor Strange with any respect. Spider-Boy, that is not Spider-Man. That's a Spider-Boy. Spider-Boy ain't doing nothing. You know, I don't even know why he's in the movie. He shouldn't have been in this movie. Think about what I'm saying. Don't think about he's just rescuing people. What is his purpose in the movie? If Spider-Boy was not in the movie, would we miss him? No. We wouldn't miss him. He has no, what's the word I'm looking for? He has no storyline, no story plot for why he's in the movie. He's just there. All right, so let's see what you guys are saying. I truly believe that Zack Snyder is a genius when it comes to, okay, that's Dave Ethan. Question 13 says, it's a shame Marvel had nearly 20 movies to set up the Thanos character, and they failed hard. Spot on the BBS analysis. Dave Ethan, sadly, CW mostly does the same thing with DC characters. You know, the thing about it is, Dave Ethan, CW is a television show. And so there's a demographic that will watch a television show. And no, I disagree with you, Dave Ethan, in the sense that CW still has more respect for their characters. They have more respect for Supergirl. Supergirl is not a parody. It's not every 2 lines is the butt of jokes in Supergirl. It's not realistic. The world's not realistic, clearly. I'm not really interested in Supergirl per se, but they take their characters. The CW still takes their characters much more seriously than the MCU does, especially of late. They've been just going for the jokes, because what I realize is Disney is saying, look, man, people are stressed out right now. This is a stressed out time. We're not going to talk about politics. We're not going to talk about none of those things. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to make sure we sell a bunch of toys. And literally this movie was done by committee. It feels like a committee done film. I don't even know how much of this film is the Russo brothers' job. I don't know how much they had to say in this film. But there's a lot of compromise on these characters. It feels empty. It feels like an empty film. What do you take away from this? You know, I hear some dull-minded people saying this film was about sacrifice. Yeah, hell no, this wasn't about sacrifice. If this film was about sacrifice, then Adolf Hitler, man, he really wanted Germany. It was a sacrifice to purge Germany of the Jews so that the Germans could survive. Yeah, okay, that was sacrifice by under Hitler. That's genocide. This film was not about sacrifice. This film was about genocide. And it's interesting how pathos, emotionally stimulating people to believe something, how it gets people to actually believe, the dull-minded people, that is, to believe that Thanos was really about sacrifice, and really the universe would have survived with his notion of what it was to do. I heard other people say, oh, Thanos is really truly he's a brilliant villain. He's the greatest villain of all time. I heard a guy called John Campea say that, because he actually believes what he's saying, and he's making some great points. He's not making great points. For anybody who has a semblance of some kind of cognition, they know all of his points are flawed. And then the other thing that really makes it so stupid is you're selling this idea that this guy really truly believes what he's saying, and yet he's not consistent in what he does. If you truly believe what you're saying, you'd be consistent in what you do. So they even undersell that, And then, oh my God, how can humans fight with godlike beings? It's not possible unless you know their weaknesses, and they never highlight that. It's just a toe-to-toe, straight up and down battle. And humans are beating these guys? I can understand why people said, oh, how come Batman's fighting up with parademons? He should have just taken them out. I can understand that, because it's like a numb-minded Neanderthal dumb way of thinking. Oh, they're just parademons. They're just fodder. And when a movie actually treats these beings with respect, that they actually have powers and that they actually are stronger than humans, all of a sudden people are like, oh, he's fighting up with parademons. I'm like, what's wrong with these people? You gonna let fantasy blind your perception of reality? Dave Ethan says, as much as I enjoyed Infinity War, there's a lot of truth about what you're saying right now. Too bad there's not a lot of people like me that thinks that way. Again, I'm not saying that you may not enjoy that sort of movie. All right. Some people do. Maybe you enjoyed it because, I don't know, you were just going on the ride and you decided, I'm just going to go on a ride. Fine. And you paid your money. You damn well, you better enjoy your movie. I mean, I paid money for Thor Ragnarok and I regretted every moment of it. I did not enjoy that movie at all. I'm never going to go back and watch it. And that's why I didn't even pay to go see Infinity War. I made sure I saw it pirated version. I'll tell everybody I saw it on a pirated version. I really don't care what anybody says. I'm not watching that thing in the cinema. I'm not paying money to watch that thing. Okay. And I knew I was not going to like it because I already seen the plot for it and it wasn't anything great. Right. And I guess what makes people so gasp and everything is, man, look, they killed off all of the Avengers. Half of the Avengers are gone or whatever. And it's like, who cares? Like, I don't care. Because there's nothing for me to care. I don't even care that Black Panther died. Like, a lot of people are like, Black Panther died, he died. And I'm like, so what? So what? There's nothing to him in this story. This story adds nothing to him. What we got in Black Panther was a really nice fleshed out story, which, though it does connect in terms of sequence to this story, in no way is related to this story otherwise. Because they added nothing to Black Panther and what he does. We get nothing more of his philosophy. We get nothing more of his world. They just bunch together, get Captain America, get this man a shield, and they go fight. That's it. You have to understand that means nothing. It means nothing. It adds to nothing. It builds nothing off of the foundation of Black Panther we got. Yes, we get to know Black Panther. We love Black Panther. But so what? And the funny thing about it is, Superman gets killed off in BVS. They said killed him off too soon, but they didn't kill off Black Panther too soon. They didn't kill off Spider-Man too soon. They didn't kill off some other characters too soon. Not to mention, Nick Fury doesn't even pop up in the movie until the after credit scene, and then they kill him off. You know what I'm saying? And my point being, and always when we see Captain America, all he says is, we fight. That's his whole line throughout all of the Avengers movies and all of the Captain America movies is, we fight. He has not matured at all. Not an inch. There is no growth to that character. It annoys me, man. At least they treat him with respect. I like that. They treated Black Panther with some respect. I was cool with that. Those are some of the characters that they treat with respect. But when it comes to the other characters, they don't treat them with respect. And then they talk about these characters are relatable. How? How? This is fantasy. There's not even. Look, man. If you want to watch a teeny bop movie, they talk about, Suicide Squad was a teeny bop. Suicide Squad was a much more mature movie than this movie was. Anyway, so like I said, I was going to deal with sacrifice. And that movie doesn't have anything to do with sacrifice. Funny you mentioned Campia. That dude, once a huge defender for the DCU, and all of a sudden he turns around and starts blasting the franchise. He's John Campia is what we called one of those guys who likes to go in for the ride. He gonna ride with you for a moment. When he sees, he's a fair weather kind of guy. He gonna jump off to the next side and he gonna start riding the next side, the next best thing. He's political like that. He has no stance on anything. All right, so he's just one of those guys. He's a fair weather rider. He'll ride something once it's all well and good, and then he can ride something else after that. And no, the DCU is not going anywhere. So as I said before, in my opinion, I've shown you guys a wealth of stuff right here on this little stream. I showed you a wealth of stuff about the DCU, which I think is awesome. Okay. And the reason why I like the DCEU, and I even like Krypton, who would have thought I would have liked a television show like Krypton? I wasn't hot up on Krypton, but now I'm really hot up on Krypton because, I like the plot twist. I like the plot turns. I like what Krypton's giving. I can't wait for the next season. Everything seems to build up to something very interesting. And I don't know if they're going to end this season showing that Brainiac takes over Kandor because he's broken down the shield. He's beamed out of the sky wherever he was, and he invaded the body of the destroyed. Well, it wasn't even the voice of Ra. He was gone already. The parasite thing that he had in there, the Sentry, channeled him down. We realized the Brainiac is made up of all these tentacles, and I was saying to you guys, Tim Burton, again, influenced that. When you look at Tim Burton's design, Brainiac was looking like a spidery looking, tentacle looking thing. And the whole idea that Tim Burton had of Superman being an alien, having to fit into society and all of that stuff, and how difficult it would be, is what Zack Snyder basically took the template from Tim Burton. And it's interesting that, once the DCU goes back to guys like Tim Burton, when they go back to guys like, the Wachowski brothers, their ideas, there's a demographic that wants that because it's more mature. And I don't know why WB felt they needed to go, this easier, softer route, because people were complaining. And these people are not people who support your franchise. They're the moaners and the groaners, and they're not really DC fans. So I always tell people, look, man, just do what you do. Do what you do, WB. Ride and die by it. Don't worry about what the critics' assessment of a movie is at the point in time. What you're interested in is satisfying your base first and then moving outwards. And if you are consistent in your storytelling, which they are for the most part, even with Justice League, they're pretty consistent, even Suicide Squad. And, they're more enjoyable movies than they had some sort of virtue in them. But I would have preferred to see David Ayer's complete version of what he wanted to do for Suicide Squad. I wanted to see Zack Snyder's complete version of what he did for Justice League. I wanted the ultimate cut in cinemas. That's what I wanted. Because when the director does what they want to do, to me, that is, let the directors ride and die by what they do. Now with James Wan, I'm hoping that Warner Brothers does not try to shorten down his film, doesn't try to tamper with James Wan. Let James Wan do James Wan. Let James Wan do James Wan. Let him do James Wan. Let Patty Jenkins do Patty Jenkins. Let James Wan do James Wan. Let David Sandberg do Sandberg. Let them ride and die by what they do. Even though you're doing your screenings and stuff, don't tamper with the people's movie. Let them do what they do. That's all WB need to do. They just need to let the directors do what they need to do. Let them ride and die by whatever. Okay, and that's the long and short of it. But yeah, the DCEU is doing pretty well for 5 movies in. I'm enjoying it, but that's not the point. My point is that when you look at you know, certain topics and certain themes and what you want the society to be, you have to give them substance. This is not a time to run away and escape and try and just be filled with laughs. You know, I'm not interested in Deadpool that's coming up, and I'm not watching it. All right. And I don't care what people say. I'm not going in the cinema to watch Deadpool. Now, some people will go into cinema and watch Deadpool. That's not my thing, though. Deadpool is not my thing. I haven't watched the first Deadpool. I will not be watching the second Deadpool. And that's just what it is. You know, I'm going to watch an X-Men film that's coming up. I don't think it's the Black Phoenix. It's the other one. I can't remember what it is. Definitely going to be there for the X-Men film. Definitely going to be there for Aquaman. You know, these are films I'm looking forward to see. What's the X-Men film called? I'll tell you what it's called. Because those are films I'm looking forward to see. Because that's my kind of film. You know what I'm saying? X-Men. I think it's 2019. It'll come out. Let's see what it's called. Oh, come on. I said X-Men. Oh, okay. Not Dark Phoenix, man. It's not Dark Phoenix. New Mutants. See that? New Mutants. New Mutants. I gotta see New Mutants, bro. Gotta see New Mutants. Just gotta see that. That intrigues me. Not even Dark Phoenix intrigues me. But you see New Mutants, that's something I need to go see in the cinema. That guy's gotta see that thing. You know, I'm not interested in what's that thing, the Spider-Man looking thing. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in Dark Phoenix. I'm interested in New Mutants. That's my kind of movie. Aquaman, Shazam. I'm interested in Shazam. It looks interesting to me. And I know Shazam is going to be a different kind of take that we've seen in DC. We haven't seen something really funny like that. It's going to be funny for sure. And that's the way you treat the characters with respect. You expect Shazam to be funny. You do not expect Aquaman to be all these jokes and laughs and jokes. You know, Aquaman is going to be serious. It's going to be scary. It's going to be adventure filled. We expect it to have some funny moments, but it's not going to dominate. It's not going to be pervasively funny. That's not what Aquaman is about. Aquaman is supposed to be a feared ruler of the sea, very powerful. So we don't expect Aquaman to be funny. You know what I'm saying? But in Shazam, now that's a different story. That's its own. If it comes out funny, man, it is what it is. You know. So you have to understand the characters that you're representing, and apparently Marvel sees their characters as parodies. They don't see, you know, Iron Man has become this guy who's a joker all the time. He's always telling jokes. Iron Man has a sharp sense of humor, yes, but Iron Man, if you go read the comics again about Iron Man, he smack talks people. Yes, he's full of ego, but Iron Man is not just about making jokes and punchlines all the time. All right, hell no, Thor is not about making jokes and punchlines all the time. Okay, Loki is got a mischief, and even the way how they handle Loki in this movie is just kind of stupid. You know, Loki's not dumb. Like Loki's like a player. He's like Darren Vex. He's a traitor. He betrays. He goes both sides. You know. So anyway, it is what it is. So at the end of the day, I don't want to talk no more about Infinity War. I'm tired of talking about Infinity War. I wanted to point out these attributes that I saw in the DCU. There's a number of other things in Krypton, but one of the interesting things about Krypton I thought that we could discuss here right now is, I don't know how many of you have seen episode number 9 of Krypton, but now we learned that General Zod is actually may not. Well, he has to be. He is the son of Segel, and believe it or not, Segel and Lyta Zod, and we see it through his blood. He's able to open up the closed Doomsday vault, but of course Segel and Zod, they removed that vault. And Zod's bad, man. She was kicking General Zod's ass. She was about to kill him, snap his neck. And that would have been interesting, seeing her do that. But she got shot by Lyta Zod. So Lyta Zod has sort of switched her allegiances, and she's even shut down her mother, man. She just, you know, she annihilated her mother. And it's interesting now, this thing's getting complex. General Zod's trying to overthrow to take Kandor. He's trying to overthrow now the Voice of Ra and the Brainiac Sentry and stuff. He's trying to stop Brainiac anyway. They may be looking at Doomsday to try and stop Brainiac. Doomsday looks like because they moved Doomsday, it looks like the force field that was holding him in place and keeping him frozen that thing's wearing away. So they got to get Doomsday out of there. And then on top of that, now we got Brainiac that showed up, and Segel and Nyssa Vex. Nyssa Vex now seems like the great close ally that can be trusted with with Segel. Man, this story is just, oh man, it's just changing on the drop of a dime, right? This thing's evolving all kinds of how. Brainiac shows up on Krypton, you know. So I mean, Damien Anton Vincent, man, good day to you, bro. How you doing? DC Films is the best. Yes, man. I like it, man. But if you haven't seen Krypton, man, you need to check out that whole entire season, man, because Krypton's getting, man, Krypton's super interesting in terms of plot. In terms of plot and story, this thing is in flux. Things are changing all the time. Allegiances are changing, and people are seeing different ways as the story changes. So it's just, you know, it's really cool. Nyssa Vex, she ends up saving Segel by stabbing the Sentry. He stabbed the Sentry, and she stabbed what looked like the voice of Ra into his neck, and somehow she killed the Sentry or something. And so or whatever she did to the Sentry, I don't know what she did to the Sentry, but it disintegrated, and then Brainiac came down. Okay, we saw, first of all, the shield open up, and now the city of Kandor is exposed to the elements, and then we saw Brainiac come down into Krypton. And he's like, Krypton is mine. The only thing I didn't like about Brainiac was how Brainiac originally looked when they first showed Brainiac. He doesn't look like that anymore. He looks like this prosthesis on his face after they went from the CGI to him. And it's a nice seamless move from the CGI to him, but his face looks kind of a little bit prosthetic, and I don't like that particularly. Kind of looks stupid. Should have just kept the original Brainiac looking face that I saw. That looked really cool. So I want to see what happens in this series. You know, there was another revelation of Brainiac somewhere else, and he looked. That was in a preview before, where Brainiac was talking to the people and stuff, and he looked much better. I didn't like his appearance. There's a couple things. I mean, it's a TV show, so it is what it is. But I mean, at the end of the day, man, Brainiac is there in Krypton. It looks like Kandor is about to go down. They're gonna have to go to Kryptonopolis or to the other adjacent city. They mentioned a number of other cities in Kryptons. I would love that. I want to see all of Krypton. I don't want to see Kandor, you know. And I believe Kandor will fall. It looks like it will, as well as it may not. Zod's down there with Jaina. And the weird thing about this is, and Lyta is there, and Jaina has been saved by do you know Jaina's cousin or brother or whatever it was that she thought she killed? He's alive. He managed to survive on the outskirts of Kandor, you know, and he's the one that rescued her. Basically, she doesn't know she's like out of it right now. He rescued and saved her. So it's really interesting how this story is going, and he's kind of in the shadows. He was the guy that actually helped Dev-Em to live, and he's been in the shadows all the time. So it's really interesting. I don't know how this story is going to pan out. And then we also have, of course, all of the underground dwellers from the ice goddess who still they live underground. And the whole movie's in flux in a kind of way, because it's like, how do all these other players play out, you know? And even the leader of the rebellion, the Black Zero leader, she looks like she has an agenda, and she was responsible for the Genesis Chamber. She's the one that kind of brought about this artificial population thing that was happening. So it's just really crazy. And she wanted artificial population to save Kryptons and Kryptonians. But at the same time, apparently, they were making clones, and she was trying to get rid of the clones. And it seems apparently that they were using it for the wrong reasons. And Darren Vex, he's the one that set her up. And so she's been pretty vicious. She's vicious, man. She's vicious. I don't know how good she really is. And then, man, it's like there's a lot of players in this game. And so Krypton has gotten very, very interesting, very, very fast, because everybody's got an agenda behind them. And we don't know all the agendas out there, who has what and what's really going on with Krypton. So it's very interesting, man. The story is very interesting. We got Doomsday, who's like a ticking clock, and he probably can get broken free. What will happen when that happens? We got the people who are followers of the Ice Goddess underground. We got the Resistance people who are thinking about taking over Krypton. We got Brainiac that's come down to Kandor. We got Zod and Lighter Zod, who's moving through Kandor now, trying to get to Brainiac and also trying to get to Doomsday, so they can pit Doomsday against Brainiac. Then we got Jaina Zod, who's been mortally wounded, but her brothers come to save her, it seems. And so I don't know what's going to happen with that. And then we got Segel and Nyssa Vex, they're trying to get away from Kandor now because they're beginning to realize that Kandor has been exposed. Brainiac's already down there. It's exposed to the elements. We don't know what's going to happen to Kandor from that. And then you got all these people at different levels in Kandor. Will they flee? What will happen? Will Brainiac rip Kandor out the ground and go with it? I don't know. We're going to see. Then we got Adam Strange, who he's trying to kill Zod. His mission is to kill Zod, and I'll make sure that Kandor gets captured. We got Segel, he's not sure if he can save Kandor anymore. You remember he went in with the rebels, and he also went in with the Sagittari, and Brainiac caused them to fight against one another and kill off each other. All right, Brainiac Sentry. So I mean, it's just crazy. I don't know how this story is going to go down. I don't know how the Resistance leader is going to take to this. I don't know what's going to happen in the end. But it's a crazy movie, man. It's a crazy television series, and there's a lot going on in it. That's all I can tell you. And every episode has been building up. So I don't know. This was the first season. I don't know if they can top that in the next season. We'll see. I don't know. But they got me invested. David Goyer's got me invested in it. There's certain things, though, I wish they would just improve in terms of how the series looks and certain things that happen in the series, which I don't vibe with particularly, that are annoying. But other than that, man, Krypton is dope. I like it. I can't wait for the season finale. It reminds me of when I used to watch Star Wars, the Clone Wars. I really enjoyed the Clone Wars series. I couldn't keep my eyes off of it. I've kind of disengaged from Star Wars Rebels, but I was kind of interested in Star Wars Rebels for a while, and then I kind of disengaged from Star Wars Rebels. But that also is interesting how, they build the stories and they build the characters as they go along. But this one is different because you got all these different motivations, all these different plots going on. It's live action. The set design is just enough that you can buy into it. So it still feels like a television series, but, the set design is you can buy into it some. I don't particularly like certain characters, how they do them, but that's cool. That's all good as well. So, another thing people don't know, Segel moved Kem, moved him from Kandor and moved him to, I don't know if it was Kryptonopolis or Argo City. I can't remember which one, but he's not there in Kandor anymore. He moved into someplace safe. So it's going to be very interesting how all of this stuff pans out in the end. Anyway, guys, I need to go. But it was nice chatting with all of you guys. Diamond, Anton, Vincent, Dave, Ethan, question 13. Guys, man, it was fun. It was fun. I want to see you guys. Oh, by the way, don't forget #release the Snyder Cut. We need that Snyder Cut, man. So let's keep that pressure on. I hope that we get the Snyder Cut soon. Yeah, man. So you guys have a great one. I'll talk to you guys later. It's 1:29 p.m. You guys have a great day. God bless you all. And remember, sacrifice is not something where other people have to sacrifice and you do nothing. No, sacrifice involves you and me, and we actually need to sacrifice to help other people. All right? You guys have a great one. Deuce. Thanks to you guys, and peace.